welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
We've been getting lots of questions about how to really get more out of online learning, and you shared some fascinating research.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive right in. How do we learn more effectively in these digital settings?
Exactly. And today the focus is on something called self-explanation. Sounds intriguing.
It is. We're really plunging into the power of self-explanation within what researchers call digital learning environments, or DLEs. It's a key strategy that the research keeps pointing to.
Okay, self-explanation. I mean, on the surface it sounds like, well, explaining things to yourself. Is there more to it than that?
Yeah, there's definitely a bit more nuance. Fundamentally, it's about actively processing information. It's not just passive listening or reading.
Right.
When you try to explain something, even just in your head, you're forced to engage with it. And that process really helps you spot where your understanding is maybe a bit fuzzy or where you've misunderstood something.
Feels like actively trying to make sense of it, maybe like you're teaching it to yourself.
Precisely. Yeah, teaching it to yourself, either mentally or, some people find writing it down helps.
Okay, so it's definitely not just hitting play and zoning out. You've got to actively work with it. And the research we're looking at today is pretty solid, right? A meta-analysis.
That's right. Published just this year, 2025, in the Educational Psychology Review. And yeah, a meta-analysis is powerful because it doesn't just look at one study in isolation.
Right, it combines a whole bunch.
Exactly. This one pooled the results from 56 separate studies that gave them 204 effect sizes to analyze, which is quite a lot of data.
Wow.
It gives us this sort of combined wisdom, a much more robust understanding of whether self-explanation really makes a difference in online learning settings.
That scale definitely gives me more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, our mission for this deep dive is clear. Figure out if self-explanation actually boosts online learning and, maybe just as crucial for our listeners, what makes it work better, or maybe not as well for them.
Yep, that's the goal.
So let's hit the big question first. Overall, does it work? How effective is self-explanation when you're learning online?
Well, the meta-analysis gives a pretty clear signal. Overall, they found what's called a medium effect on academic performance in these DLEs. That's compared to learning situations where people didn't actively self-explain.
Okay, a medium effect. What does that feel like in practice? I'm not a statistician, so.
Yeah.
Is that like a tiny improvement or something you'd actually notice?
Good question. Think of it like this. A medium effect suggests a noticeable, practical improvement. It's not just a statistical blip.
Right.
If you consistently use self-explanation, you'd likely find yourself understanding concepts better, maybe remembering them more easily later on, perhaps even seeing a difference in grades. It's a meaningful advantage.
That's encouraging. And the study, it broke this down further, right? Looked at different types of learning outcomes.
Yes, they did. They looked at, for instance, immediate performance, like how well you do on a quiz right after learning something.
Okay, and how did it fare there?
Pretty well. The effect size was G equals 0.45, and that was based on a large number of studies. 158 effect sizes, actually. So it seems to really help lock things in the short term.
Short term is good, but, the classic, in one ear out, the other problem is real. What about remembering stuff later on? Retention.
Critical point. For delayed retention, so remembering things over time, the effect was still positive, though a bit smaller. It was G equals 0.35 based on 46 effect sizes.
Still positive, though.
Still positive, definitely. They also looked at retention just as its own specific category and found G equals 0.31 across 56 studies. So yes, it does seem to contribute to making knowledge stick longer, not just immediate grasp.
That's really important. It's not just about cramming for the test right after. What about applying the knowledge? Taking what you learned and using it in a new way. That feels like real learning.
That's what researchers often call knowledge transfer. And yeah, they looked at that too. The effect size there was G equals 0.33 across 77 studies.
Okay, so it helps with that too. Maybe not quite as much as immediate recall, but it's still helping you use the information flexibly.
Exactly. It indicates that self-explanation can help you take what you've learned and apply it in new situations, which, let's face it, is often the main goal.
Definitely. Now, there was one category that jumped out with a bigger effect size. It was labeled mixed learning outcomes. G equals 0.60 from 71 studies. What does mixed usually mean here?
Right. Mixed typically means the studies were measuring a combination of things. So maybe They tested both understanding the core ideas and being able to solve problems using those ideas.
Ah, so like concept knowledge and application combined.
Precisely. And that larger effect size, G 0.60, it could suggest that when self-explanation is supporting a broader range of learning goals simultaneously, its impact might be even more pronounced.
Interesting. So if the goal is both knowing the what and the how, self-explanation might be especially powerful. Okay, this is making sense. Now, the study also looked at when it works best, right? These moderating factors. The first one was about pacing.
Yes, learning environment pacing. This basically boils down to who controls the speed. You've got learner-centered pacing, where you decide how fast you go, when to pause, when to review.
Okay, like watching a video lecture, I can pause and rewind.
Exactly. Then there's system-centered pacing, where the system, the platform, dictates the speed. Maybe a slide advances automatically after 30 seconds, or you can't move on until a timer runs out.
Ugh, yeah, I've been in those. Can be frustrating if you need more time. So how did pacing affect how well self-explanation worked?
This was a really interesting finding. The meta-analysis showed that self-explanation was significantly more effective in the learner-centered paced environment.
Really? Much more effective.
Yeah, the positive effects were considerably stronger when learners were in control of the pace.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense intuitively. If I'm not feeling rushed, I probably have more brain space to actually stop and think, okay, what did I just learn? Can I explain that?
That's exactly the thinking. The researchers suggest that having control over the pace gives you the crucial opportunity to engage deeply. You can pause, reflect, dedicate the time needed for thoughtful self-explanation.
Right.
You can actually identify those gaps and work through them. In a system-paced setting, that pressure to just keep up might mean you don't feel you have the time or, frankly, the mental energy for that deeper processing.
Yeah, if I feel like I'm on a conveyor belt, I'm just trying to keep up, not necessarily pause and explain it back to myself.
Right.
That's a huge practical takeaway. What was the other key factor? Type of knowledge.
Yes, the type of knowledge being learned. They looked at broadly 3 types. First, concept knowledge, understanding the ideas, the principles, the why.
Like understanding supply and demand.
Exactly. Second, procedural knowledge, knowing how to do something, the steps involved.
Like solving a specific type of math problem, or maybe following lab instructions.
Right. And third, mixed knowledge, which, like we talked about, often combines both conceptual understanding and procedural steps.
Okay, concept, procedural, mixed. And how did self-explanation work for these different types?
The finding here was that self-explanation seemed to be more effective for learning concept knowledge and for mixed knowledge compared to purely procedural knowledge.
Huh. That's interesting. Why would explaining concepts or mixed stuff benefit more than explaining steps?
Well, the thinking is that when you're dealing with concepts, self-explanation really helps you build a richer mental model. You're connecting ideas, understanding relationships, putting principles into your own words. It forces you to construct that deeper understanding.
Okay, so it helps build the underlying framework.
Right. Whereas with procedural knowledge, while understanding why the steps work can be good, a lot of it is about, well, memorizing and practicing the sequence. The physical act of doing it might be relatively more important than just verbally explaining it.
So if I'm trying to grasp, say, a complex historical event, explaining the causes and effects to myself would be really useful.
Probably yes.
But if I'm learning to, I don't know, tie a specific knot for sailing,
Hmm.
actually practicing the knot might be more key than just explaining the steps over and over.
But that's a good analogy. It's not that self-explanation is useless for procedures, but its relative impact seems stronger when you're grappling with abstract ideas, theories, and that kind of integrated knowledge.
Got it. This is incredibly useful stuff for anyone learning online. So pulling it all together, what are the main headlines from this big meta-analysis? What should we really take away?
The big takeaway is that there's pretty solid evidence supporting self-explanation as a beneficial learning strategy in digital environments. That consistent medium effect across different outcomes gives us confidence in its general usefulness.
So basically it's worth doing. A clear thumbs up.
Generally, yes. But the research also points clearly to areas where we need to know more. A really big one is about the quality of the self-explanation.
Ah, right. Because just mumbling something isn't the same as really thinking it through.
Exactly. We know doing it helps, but what makes a good self-explanation? How detailed does it need to be? Are certain kinds of reasoning better than others? We don't have all the answers yet.
That makes total sense. It's one thing to say, yeah, I get it, and another to be able to truly articulate why or how something works.
Precisely. And tied to that, the researchers highlighted a need for more standardized ways to actually measure the quality of self-explanations in studies. If everyone measures it differently, it's hard to compare results and figure out what really works best.
Okay, so the research path is moving from does it work towards, okay, how do we make it work optimally?
Fascinating. This has been super insightful. So, for our listener trying to navigate their online courses, what's the key message you want them to hold on to?
I'd say the core message is self-explanation is a valuable tool in your learning toolkit for online environments. Don't just passively consume content, actively engage by explaining it to yourself. And remember, it seems especially powerful when you control the pace and when you're focused on really understanding concepts and bigger ideas. And thinking about actually doing this, what's a provocative thought or question you'd leave people with? Something to mull over.
Maybe think about this. How could you intentionally build moments for self-explanation into your routine? It might not happen automatically. What prompts could you use? Could you pause a video every 10 minutes and ask yourself, okay, what were the main points there? Can I explain that simply?
Ooh, I like that, making it deliberate.
Yeah, or maybe trying to explain a difficult concept out loud, even if just to the wall. Or jotting down a quick summary in your own words after reading a section. What specific actions could you take?
Those are great, concrete ideas. It really reframes it from just receiving info to actively building understanding,
Mhm.
and maybe also reflecting back, when have I done this naturally and did it help? Noticing those moments.
Absolutely. Becoming aware of your own process is key. And, research keeps evolving. We'll likely learn even more nuanced ways to optimize online learning down the road. But for now, embracing self-explanation is a really solid step toward being a more effective digital learner.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for breaking down this really practical research for us. Definitely gives me and hopefully everyone listening a lot to think about.
My pleasure. It's important stuff.
And thank you, as always, for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this gave you a valuable shortcut to being well informed.